When the whole city was coming down, these guys were taking pictures. Like they'd been waiting for it.
You think that your father was working for them?
This stuff was in a safe.
Who are they? What's Monarch?
This is the world we live in.
Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, expands the MonsterVerse into a character-driven narrative that blends large-scale mythology with intimate human drama, presenting a world permanently altered by the revelation that colossal creatures are real. The story unfolds across multiple timelines, moving fluidly between the past and the present, to explore how the existence of monsters reshaped governments, families, and secret organizations operating in the shadows. Rather than focusing only on destruction and spectacle, the series emphasizes the long-term consequences of living in a reality where humanity is no longer the dominant force on the planet, grounding its science fiction premise in emotional stakes and generational trauma. At the center of the narrative is Monarch, a clandestine organization formed to study, track, and contain the Titans. What initially appears to be a scientific institution slowly reveals itself as a morally complex entity, balancing global security against dangerous secrets and ethically questionable decisions. The series portrays Monarch not as a clear-cut force for good or evil, but as an evolving response to a terrifying new world order. Through shifting perspectives, the audience sees how Monarch's actions ripple outward, affecting ordinary citizens as much as world leaders, and how secrecy becomes both a shield and a weapon. The present-day storyline follows a group of characters grappling with personal loss in the aftermath of a catastrophic monster attack. Their search for answers pulls them into Monarch's hidden history, uncovering truths that challenge what they thought they knew about their families and themselves. This journey is driven less by heroism and more by necessity, as grief, anger, and curiosity collide. The series uses this emotional entry point to introduce the broader mythology, allowing the audience to discover the MonsterVerse alongside the characters rather than through exposition alone. Running parallel to this modern narrative is a richly detailed storyline set, decades earlier, exploring Monarch's origins during a time when monsters were still considered myths. This timeline focuses on scientists and military figures who first encountered evidence of Titans, forcing them to choose between public disclosure and global panic. The tension in these scenes comes not from action alone, but from ideological conflict, as characters debate whether humanity should confront the truth or bury it for the sake of stability. These early choices form the foundation for Monarch's future, revealing how fear and ambition shaped its core principles. The cast brings emotional credibility to this layered story, with performances that emphasize restraint and internal conflict rather than exaggerated heroics. Characters are written with clear motivations and flaws, making their decisions feel earned even when morally ambiguous. The generational aspect of the casting reinforces the theme of legacy, showing how the consequences of past actions echo forward in unexpected ways. Relationships between parents and children, mentors and protégés, become mirrors for the larger idea of humanity inheriting a world it can no longer fully control. The plot steadily builds by weaving mystery into revelation, allowing information to surface gradually instead of relying on sudden twists. Each discovery raises new questions about the nature of the monsters, Monarch's true mission, and humanity's place in this evolving ecosystem. Rather than positioning Titans solely as antagonists, the series presents them as ancient forces following their own logic, indifferent to human concerns. This perspective reframes destruction not as evil intent, but as a byproduct of coexistence with beings operating on a vastly different scale. Visually, the series maintains the cinematic tone established by previous MonsterVerse entries, using scale to emphasize human vulnerability. Monster appearances are deliberate and impactful, often saved for moments that advance the story rather than constant spectacle. When titans do appear, the framing highlights their enormity through environmental interaction, sound design, and character reactions. This approach keeps the focus on tension and awe, ensuring that each encounter feels consequential rather than routine. Thematically, Monarch: Legacy of Monsters explores trust, secrecy, and the cost of knowledge. Characters are repeatedly forced to decide how much truth the public can handle and whether withholding information is an act of protection or control. The series also interrogates humanity's instinct to dominate and categorize the unknown, suggesting that survival may require adaptation rather than conquest. These ideas are reinforced through dialogue and character arcs, giving the story philosophical weight beneath its science fiction surface. Facts about the series emerge organically through its storytelling, including Monarch's global reach, its technological advancements, and its internal divisions. The show reveals how Monarch evolved alongside major historical events, embedding the MonsterVerse into recognizable human timelines. This grounding effect makes the fictional elements feel more plausible, as if the existence of monsters simply altered history rather than replacing it. The careful balance between realism and fantasy strengthens immersion and long-term narrative credibility. The release of the series marked a significant expansion of the MonsterVerse into long-form storytelling, allowing for deeper character development than a feature film runtime would permit. The episodic structure supports gradual tension building, enabling each chapter to focus on specific relationships or revelations while contributing to a larger arc. This format also allows the series to explore quieter moments of reflection, emphasizing how ordinary lives continue in the shadow of extraordinary events. Trailer material for Monarch: Legacy of Monsters set the tone by emphasizing mystery over spectacle, hinting at monsters without fully revealing them. The focus on character reactions, fragmented dialogue, and ominous imagery signaled a more introspective approach compared to traditional monster-driven narratives. This marketing direction aligned with the show's core identity, preparing audiences for a story where emotional discovery is as important as action. As the plot progresses, alliances shift and assumptions are challenged, revealing that no single character or organization holds complete control. Monarch's internal conflicts mirror the external chaos caused by the Titans, reinforcing the idea that humanity's greatest threat may be its own inability to unite under uncertainty. The series avoids simple resolutions, instead presenting outcomes that feel realistic within a world shaped by secrecy and fear. By the time the narrative reaches its later stages, the past and present timelines converge thematically, if not always chronologically. Lessons ignored in the past resurface as crises in the present, underscoring the cost of unresolved mistakes. This structural design reinforces the title's emphasis on legacy, making it clear that monsters are only part of the inheritance passed down through generations. Monarch: Legacy of Monsters ultimately positions itself as a thoughtful expansion of a familiar universe, prioritizing character, atmosphere, and long-term consequence over constant escalation. It respects the spectacle that defines the MonsterVerse while redefining its emotional core, offering a story that is as much about people as it is about titans. By focusing on what it means to live in a world shared with monsters, the series transforms large-scale destruction into a backdrop for deeply human questions about responsibility,